everyone, my name is Courtney Stein and I am here today to talk to you about historical fiction. I recently discovered a love for historical fiction within the last year or so. Um, Historical fiction obviously is history plus fiction. So it is a story that could have happened, but didn't necessarily happen the way the author tells it. It's based in facts, but it's also fictionalized. History is usually defined as 20 years in the past. So anything that happened 20 years and before that. So today we're going to specifically talk about Ruta Sepetys' novels. She is a YA, a young adult historical fiction novelist. She has 3 novels to date, all of them historical fiction. The first is Between Shades of Grey. This novel is very close to her heart. Ruta Sepetys is the daughter of a Lithuanian refugee, and this book is set in Lithuania in 1941 during the time when Stalin was doing his cleansing of the Baltic region, which includes Lithuania. It was published in 2011, and it is about a girl named Lena Vilkas who is taken along with her family in the middle of the night by the Soviet secret police and sent to a work camp in Siberia. It's a very emotional story. Ruta Sepetys does not spare any detail, but she's not a wordy author. So she packs a punch with as few words as possible, which is appreciated. So this novel is written from Lena's point of view in the first person. It also has snippets of her memories from the past in italics. So you have the present, what's happening right now, and then sometimes she will have these memory flashes, and those will be in italics. And so the juxtaposition of those two time periods is very nice. It really rounds out the story. Like I said, this book is very emotional. It is horrific. It's devastating. It hits you right here. It's real. And it's about a subject matter that is not normally discussed in American public schools. At least I didn't learn about it in my high school. Maybe y'all are learning about it. I'm not really sure. So the next book that I'm going to talk about is Salt to the Sea, and this is actually Sepetys' most recent novel. It was published earlier this year in February, and it is set in 1945, also towards the end of World War II. And I'm choosing to discuss it next, even though it wasn't the next novel that Sepetys wrote, because it is tied to her first novel, Between Shades of Grey. Between Shades of Grey, its protagonist, Lena, is the cousin of one of the point of view characters in Salt to the Sea. Her name is Joanna. So this novel has 4 point of view characters. Joanna, who is Lithuanian, Florian, who is from East Prussia, Emilia, who is from Poland, and Alfred, who is German and very, very devoted to Hitler. It's actually quite scary how brainwashed she is, and that's really where the emotional arc is in this story, for me, at least personally. The other storylines are also very emotional, but it was hard to have any sympathy for Alfred at all, because he was so completely enthralled by Hitler. So these 4 characters, they have their own points of view, and the story, let's see if you can see it. So this is Alfred, and then 2 pages later you have Joanna, and then 3 pages later you have Florian. So she switches points of view very frequently, very quickly, but it works. All the storylines are tied together. They are all intrinsic to one another. All these people know each other eventually in the story, and So they all find themselves on this ship sailing to Germany called the Wilhelm Gustloff, and I hope I'm saying that right. But this ship was the capacity for people on this ship was supposed to be 1,000. The Germans packed 10,000 people onto the ship, and it sank because the Russians torpedoed it from underneath, and 10,000 people lost their lives, more or less. It was horrific. So just to put that into perspective, we all know about the Titanic, right? Because that is the major historical sinking that everyone knows about. There are movies about it, books about it, whatever. The Titanic only had a little over 2,000 people on it. So why does the world know so much about the Titanic and not the Wilhelm Gustloff with 8,000 more people? I don't know. So you will learn a lot from reading this book. I think it's a very important book. I think it works, and I am not normally a fan of switching points of view, especially with 4 characters. I'm usually okay with 2, but 4 characters is a lot. It's a lot to remember and take in for a reader. But if you stick with this book to page 20, I guarantee you will finish it. You will want to finish it. It is amazing and wonderful, and you should read it. Okay, moving on. This is my favorite of Ruta Sepetys' books. Okay, it's called Out of the Easy, and she wrote it in 2013, or she published it in 2013, and it is set in 1950 New Orleans, which is part of why I love it so much. So she wrote this book in between her other 2 novels because she needed an emotional break, which I completely understand. I guess New Orleans is a little much more of a light subject matter as compared to World War II. So this book is about a 17-year-old girl named Josie Moraine, who is living in New Orleans and who is the daughter of a prostitute. Do I have your attention? She's the daughter of a prostitute in the French Quarter. And Josie really, really wants to leave New Orleans. She hates it there. Her and her mother are very estranged. They have an awful relationship. And Josie wants to go to college. She wants to go to Smith College in Massachusetts, specifically. So in the process of trying to get there and applying and finding the money to go, because it's very expensive, she finds herself wrapped up in a murder investigation involving her mother, because, of course. So one of my favorite parts about this book, besides the setting, which Ruta Sepetys does very, very well, the voice in this novel is spectacular. It's brilliant. It will draw you in from the very first sentence, like it did me. I know it will. This book has my heart. It is my favorite historical novel, probably of all time, right now, unless I read something else later that takes its place, but I doubt it. So Josie's voice is very enthralling. She knows herself. She is very charismatic. And so her mother is a prostitute, and her mother's madam, her name is Willie. And she runs the brothel and is in control of all of her prostitutes. And Willie has taken Josie under her wing since she was about 7 years old. So unfortunately, she has grown up basically in a brothel, which is kind of wow. But Willie is kind of like the mother character to Josie, and they have a very special relationship. And Willie's character is actually based on a real-life madam, Norma Wallace, if you've heard of her. She lived in the French Quarter, actually, in the 50s. She ran a brothel. So that's kind of cool. The history is right there. It's real, and wonderful. And I'm actually going to read a little excerpt for you from the beginning because I love it so much, and I need you to hear the first line, basically, of this novel. So here is Out of the Easy by Ruta Sepetys, Chapter 1. My mother's a prostitute. Not the filthy street-walking kind. She's actually quite pretty, fairly well-spoken, and has lovely clothes. But she sleeps with men for money or gifts, and according to the dictionary, that makes her a prostitute. She started working in 1940 when I was 7, the year we moved from Detroit to New Orleans. We took a cab from the train station straight to a fancy hotel on St. Charles Avenue. Mother met a man from Tuscaloosa in the lobby while having a drink. She introduced me as her niece and told the man she was delivering me to her sister. She winked at me constantly and whispered that she'd buy me a doll if I just played along and waited for her. I slept alone in the lobby that night, dreaming of my new doll. The next morning, Mother checked us into our own big room with tall windows and small round soaps that smelled like lemon. She received a green velvet box with a strand of pearls from the man from Tuscaloosa. Josie, this town is going to treat us just fine, said Mother, standing topless in front of the mirror, admiring her new pearls. And I'm just going to stop right there because I'm running out of time. But just to recap, I'm going to put them in order for you so that, well, wrong way. Okay. So, Ruta Sepetys and her books in order of publication date, Between Shades of Grey, Out of the Easy, and Salt to the Sea. Read them, love them as much as I do. If you love history, you will love these books. If you love realistic fiction, you will love these books. If you love emotional storylines, great characters, emotional depth, you will love these books. Try them out, you won't be disappointed.